the thing that I hate the most about, like, I will make a prediction about politics and stuff every once in most of the time I'm wrong. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I think this might happen or this might happen,
Yeah.
but like I didn't know. Like if you were to, and this was the problem here, right?
Mhm.
Is did I think he was probably gonna taco? Yeah, I did. But the stakes are so high in that moment, and they are so serious. You are talking about wiping out a civilization of people, right?
Millions of people.
And and the thing is like, oh well, yeah, he was always going to do that because blah blah blah. It's like you don't know that.
No.
You just don't know because this guy's already shown the lengths he's going to go to avoid accountability, you know, and why wouldn't he do that? And even if he's not launching nukes and he's dropping conventional ordnance or whatever, I don't care, like, whether it's he can win a war or not. There's Iranians. There are real people around plants and bridges that would have died.
Yeah.
And for what?
Yeah.
And
And
so
and
unfortunately, you have to take this seriously. You have to say, like, because again, if it's just like, well, of course I was. Yeah, then you let the enablers in Congress like, oh, well, that's just his negotiating. That's just his tough talking. That's just how he does it. We may not like it, but it's not that serious. You just relax. It's like until he does it.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
would you have ever thought January 6th was possible? I didn't, you know, I didn't.
I
And then when I
didn't.
saw it happening live, I'm like, oh my God, they're really trying to pull a coup.
Yeah.
This is really happening. You
Yeah.
know, they literally think if they steal the votes, like it's gonna overturn the election in this harebrained scheme. And who knows what's going on at the White House with them, like, well, if we nuke Tehran,
Yeah.
I'll let you launch. But that was me just like all this pent up, like bracing for this entire day, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I told you before we hopped on that, like, I just spent my like, literally from the moment I rolled over and, like, never check The Guardian while you were still in bed, people. So I did so, like, I was, like, just, like, uh, uh, looked at my phone and I'm like, "F fuck," 'cause, when The Guardian says and I hadn't seen Trump's True Social part piece yet, and then I saw it and I'm like, "Great, so this is." I mean, I was already calling, but I was just, like, literally called all day, every every member of the Senate Homeland Security people, like all the freaking Republicans in the House, and just a loop. I mean, and for me too. I mean, also watching the Iranian people create a human shield around their own infrastructure, and then even more gutting was opening up both lanes of the highway outside of Tehran so that children could flee the city. And when I made the calls today, and I still think that people need to make them because saying what he did is a war crime in and of itself, and it also casts a motive if you were talking about the International Criminal Court. And I know that people will like slide in our chat and be like, well, the United States says it's not allowed to be charged. I don't give a shit what the United States says or does not say. That time, that's the before times. We are in the after
Yeah.
times. The moment that someone comes on and says, I unilaterally have the power, a demented child rapist, uh, have the power to just decide to wipe out the oldest civilization in the world with, I think there are 91 million people in that
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
Um, and then also also adding insults to there. we have all experienced a moral injury. And I think that, holding on to that, one of the things that I said to Republicans was like, look, my students are scared. My family is scared. Every person that I have talked to of all political persuasions is completely activated right now, whether they're veterans or not. This is not the way that a president who is in his right mind announces something on a social media channel that he invented. This is unwell. I'm not asking for you to change anything. Make someone else speaker who will hear an impeachment decision to get this guy out, because he clearly does not have the cognitive capacity. He has threatened war crimes, and that is something surely that no sane person would do. And I would say, to the credit of some of the Republican staffers that I called, they were like, they knew I wasn't a constituent. I told them that I wasn't, and they themselves, and I know these are just like, most of them are just interns, but some of them appeared to be rattled and said that they would in fact pass along the message to the congressmen. They were all congressmen. I did, but at least in the House that I called. But this shit, like, what I'm most worried about is because I actually have lived in a narcissistic abuse situation like this. Like, my father's batshit crazy when it came to making stupid decisions, and he would sometimes do the crazy violent thing that you would think that's. So I actually did not think that. What I because I have seen what it looks like to accustomate yourself to an abuser who constantly comes up to the edge and says, maybe I'm going to do it, maybe I'm going to do it, and plays chicken with your whole life. Eventually they fucking do it. So I feel
Yeah.
like you were not like, people who do this, they I don't know, like, I feel like it's like this adrenaline junkie part, where it's like, my husband walked out of the room and he was like, yeah, I feel like Heather Cox Richardson was right about, him just being like so, as a malignant narcissist, so happy to know that all of the world was focused on him for a day. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think it's twofold to your, I think it's to your, I think both, I think you're right. And I think she's right.
Yeah.
That was absolutely his end game, cause like, cause she made a great point. We had the first No King's Day protest, the big one, and then he destroys the East Wing.
Mhm.
So that was to get back at us for how dare we, that's his narcissistic abuse lashing out. And then this happened, and Iran's going on, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess he's cornered and he's not going to be able to lash out. Nope, he does this, right? So this
Yeah.
is his punish us to make us all, to assert the power dynamic again. But when you're in it and it is happening, to your point, because I've been at this point, it's like, who hasn't been through
Mhm.
narcissistic abuse?
Mhm.
There's always that one time or when they do it, right? That they go over the edge or whatever, or maybe it doesn't, circumstances or events, they can't call it back, you know and yeah, it's, or because he sees somebody that doesn't believe him. Well, I'll show you, because the point is, we are dealing with an unstable actor. And when
Mhm.
you have this notion of like, well, I knew he was going to do it. No, 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 no. You're trying to apply a false sense of stability and logic and reason to someone that's inherently irrational.
Yeah.
And you don't know what they're going to do. You just happen to be proven right. That's it. This time. What about next time?
Yeah.
What about in another week or two when he needs another fix or when he needs something else, or he's got to reassert his dominance because, you know, because the global economy is going into recession, or he's getting blamed for this, or maybe something else comes out with the Epstein files, or this or this or this. Okay, like, so what? Is he gonna reassert his nuking Iran? Is he gonna attack Lebanon with Israel at this point? Is he going to what's he gonna do? I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's the problem. you
And
know?
also, like, that whoever this is the thing that I feel like I wanna say to those people because, like, I feel like and I know that they don't wanna hear it, and I think this is particularly true for people who have maybe not actually been in, like, domestic abuse situations, but, like, that rationalizing after the fact and being like, "I knew he wouldn't do it." Baby, you sound just like, "I knew my husband wouldn't hit me like he said he was gonna," or whatever. Like, I just want you to know that you're normalizing abuse. Like, what you're
Yeah.
doing is like and not you, but, like, whoever said
Oh,
that
no,
to
yeah, the
you,
people
like,
that are doing that,
hear
yeah.
me, friends, when I tell you what you're actually doing is normalizing a cycle of abuse. He is actually trying to break you into getting you to accept a smaller and smaller window of, like, what you feel is acceptable, wearing away at your life. So I know that it feels empowering to say after the fact that you knew that that wasn't going to happen, whoever you are out there, but what your nervous system is trying to do is to acclimate you in this moment, right? But you did not know that, and it is really dangerous to do that because it allows you to desensitize yourself to it, like, which is why one of the reasons why when I, like, reached out to you, Fred, and I was just like, "Hey, let's talk," is because you weren't doing that. You basically were like, "Stop saying you knew because you didn't
No.
know," and it's so important, for everybody to hold on to this because, people who have, like, dark triad personalities are intentionally breaking you and reshaping you. I mean, people are already saying less than, they normally would. The most of the
Mhm.
people that that I interact with are, have layers of fear, as do I. I mean, like, he has already made your lives smaller. I
Mhm.
want to I mean, like, I I just want people to, like, understand that you don't wanna live the rest of your life in existential danger, and this moment I feel like is a moment where everybody he had all of our lives, globally in the balance, and he is, I think, strategically at his weakest moment, and we need to push the fucking exit and get this crazy motherfucker out. We can deal with one fucking fascist at a time, but he
Mhm.
needs to be out of his role immediately. Like, he needs to be out,
Yeah.
right? Like, this and I think that there is a way eh, I believe that Donald Trump is a fascist. I believe that Donald Trump should and will be prosecuted for his crimes. But I think that there is a way to present this to Republicans as this is a way to help this man save face because he is clearly unwell and he needs to like there is a way to present it to your legislator. I think. I mean, whether they listen or not, I don't know, but
Right.
we can't be wondering if the last time that we'll, see our kids or our students or our neighbors will be in 2 weeks at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Like, what the fuck?
Right. It's or, am I gonna go to bed and then wake up and then it's like, you see devastation in Iran where just civilians got killed because, you know, because this time, he's gotta look strong and he's gotta save face and, they gotta open the Strait of Hormuz and, because it's not my fault. And I'm tired, like, and that's the thing is like, I'm sitting here like, what's gonna happen? We don't know. Don't know. I've been sitting here all day just like, it's like, man, should I really be, it's like, oh, I was on a phone call with like a buddy of mine's, my business partner got a potential lead on a job for our production company,
Good
wanting
job.
to work with us. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, I'm like, and it just kept hitting me as I'm talking to him about it, because like I'm simultaneously trying to grasp onto anything other than this feeling, but then there's that gnawing thing. This isn't gonna matter. I'm looking at the clock going, it's like, yep, 2 hours, 35 minutes. We'll know.
Right. Playing on house money now. Like what? Like what the fuck? Yeah. I mean, I the amount of people that I love who reached out to me today and said, like, "Here I am at work," and everybody is completely on edge.
Mhm.
Nobody thinks that anything that they do matters because they don't know if we're about to be, like, plunged into a nuclear war, which, I mean, I think that people don't really fucking grasp that, like, it's not going to be, and I really wanna spell this out for folks because I feel like we have been so saturated in the tea of American exceptionalism that I think there are people that think, "Oh, like, if we launched a nuke, no one would do anything." Boo, no. Like, directly, one of Iran's allies would absolutely be launching a nuke at the United States. So, like, this shit is very serious. Not to mention the fact that, I mean, I'm not like a military whatever, but I'm guessing that I'm guessing that at least Russia or China, both who are allies of Iran, have nukes that can reach the United States.
But let's go with this scenario. Let's just say, all right, I'll give you that point. I'll
Yeah,
give you that.
I'll take
That
it.
that they're not going to a nuke is not going to hit the American homeland. Okay? I will go with that. You uncork this. United States uncorks this. They launch a nuke in Iran. What's to stop Russia from launching a nuke at Ukraine at that point? We've uncorked it. What's to stop it from China launching a nuke at Taiwan?
Mhm.
You've uncorked this now. And I haven't even gotten into the fallout from any of those nuclear, because again, nuclear fallout goes worldwide. I mean, for those of you remember when there was that volcano near Iceland that went like kaboom, and the fallout went worldwide for a little while. Same thing happens with a nuclear weapon.
Oh, yeah.
And so and again, Russia is getting demolished in Ukraine right now. What's to stop, like, we uncork this, what's to stop Russia? I mean, that's still a danger now, even with
Right.
all this. When Putin's on his last leg and there's mass protests, and that regime starts coming to an end, he's just like, "You know what? I'm launching.
Yeah.
I gotta win somehow," you know?
And they're both dying sociopaths. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, like, and that's really important because, like, I feel um, like, how do I put this? So, like, just do a little psychology, emotional psychology here. Narcissists are so awful in part because they abuse you to make you. Narcissists attack you to make you feel like you're small so that you can't leave and go anywhere else. So
Mhm.
at the very bottom of all of that stuff that Trump is doing, and you see this even in that documentary Melania, where he's just constantly looking at Melania and hoping for some kind of acknowledgement. You saw it with him and Mamdani. Narcissists don't want to be alone, and people are feeling most alone toward their death. So if you don't think that a dying fucking narcissist wouldn't take us all with him, you don't understand the pathology of narcissism, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I just wanna share that out. So it's not like we're out of the woods here, like, we have to get this man, like, um we have to get this man out of this situation. Like, legitimately today, I was just like, "Let a Secret Service person just tackle that son of a bitch," and, like, put him in a fucking padded room, like, which I know, but what do you do at that point?
I mean, this is one of those kinda like, you know, with all the stops and the checks and the balances, is like, whoever thought you'd have a dying narcissist with dementia that's close to the football? You know? And for a lot of people that don't understand how that works, is like, you don't need an act of Congress to launch a nuclear weapon. That is this it's like that's why
Mhm.
you always say in the election, do you really want their hand on when they would, disparage women? Well, I don't want her hand on the button, if she's on her
Yeah.
monthly,
Mhm.
because that's how it works. It's the president, and then I think maybe the Secretary of Defense has somewhat of a say in that. Do you think Pete Hegseth's gonna stop him?
Nope.
No. God, no. And vice president doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the president. It's by law from the Cold War era that has not changed. If he wants to launch a nuke, this is not like a wartime scenario. This is like literally, oh well, yeah, sure they can impeach him afterwards. Great. You know, fantastic. The damage is already done. You know, yeah, that's like saying, after the house is burned down, we're gonna make you pay a fine for burning the grass, man.
Right.
Okay, you burn the house down, and
Yeah,
I mean, and
yeah.
it's this is already causing devastation, which again is going to come up that he's going to have to deal with. Japan just released their strategic oil reserves. China is cutting back on exports for diesel. They're keeping it for themselves. South Korea just capped the cost of diesel. So did Thailand. The Philippines are already trying to get because they're now experiencing inflation from this, just from the Strait of Hormuz, for that being closed, because most of that oil that comes through there goes to Asia. I mean, if you've seen the TikToks of people in Australia that are going to the supermarket and there's nothing because, again, global trade. We all live on a global trade system. That's why the pandemic was so brutal, because
Mhm.
that's what we've set up. And what happens in a month or 2 weeks when this goes bananas? You know,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
there's nothing that him nuking, I mean, I don't even like to say it like that because, I mean, like, what nuking as a ge I shouldn't use that word because it's really a genocide, right? Like,
yeah.
you lay off that bomb and you are taking responsibility for being a mass murderer. That's
Hmm.
really what it is, and I should be careful with my words. That's but, like, it's that and it's not, as you said, like, there's the climate, fallout, even if we don't talk about the fallout that would, I'm confident, come to the United States, but we're also dealing with, as you said, fuel shortages and also shortages of fertilizer, right? We are about to, experience a famine here in the US, and I don't think that people are prepared. The amount of times that people have rolled their eyes at me where I'm like, "I really wanna encourage you to plant some food," and they're like, "A garden won't stay," and I'm like, "You don't understand how desperate people are when they're hungry."
Hmm.
And, like,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
really important to proactively, like, feed yourself and your neighbors. Like, a garden, even a front yard garden, like, fed could feed my whole at least part of the block, you know? Like, it there but all I'm trying to say is that we're in a
y-
situation.
yeah, no, it was interesting because I think people, they don't really understand just how fragile all this is because we're so used to, you go to the grocery store, there's food, right? Uh like it brings me back to that quote from Lenin, that society is 3 meals away from chaos. And he's talking about when most people just ate one meal a day. So you're talking about three days of food. And I was watching I was watching a video about how we prepare like modern meat, right? And and how kind of awful it really is. Cause like, you know, back before, where you were preparing meat for at scale, which this happened in the 1950s. What happens now is basically they have these needles that go into any meat you have, like bacon, whatever, and they inject salt water. And that's where all the phosphates and the nitrates and everything comes from, right? That's supposed to clean it. And that's also what it does, is that's why if you've ever seen if you've ever cooked meat and you start seeing all that, like especially bacon, and it starts bubbling up, and you're like, "Oh, that's the sizzle." No, actually, that's the chemicals and the nitrates in the water escaping from meat, from the muscle fibers, and that's why there's that high sodium count. Because the way, up until the 1950s, the way they used to cure meat was you would basically bacteria can't live when you take the water out of it. So they would first dry the meat, and then they would cold smoke it. And so and then you could store it up to like 2 years
Wow.
in a cellar. Like, you didn't need refrigeration. But the
Holy shit.
problem with that process is it takes a lot of salt, and it takes curing in a smokehouse 6 to 8 weeks. And so corporations were like, dude, we can't do that. That's like way not cost effective. So American meat packers came up with, you know, what we have today. And that's why your meat goes bad after like a week or so,
Hmm.
is because it's not cured at all. Whereas if you had cured meat, you could just store it in the cellar and be like, oh, yeah, just cut off a hunk and you're pretty
That's
good.
incredible. I
Yeah. I
didn't
mean,
know
it's,
that.
yeah, no. And, but that's the thing is like, if this chain breaks down, right? And you go to the store and there is no meat, or like, just think about if like, well, you hit civilian power plants. Well, that's, like Adam Kinzinger and his ghoulish stuff that he says every once in a while. Well, it's a legitimate military target if it's before a ground invasion. Okay, Adam, if most countries survive by refrigeration and you bomb a power plant and they don't have power anymore, most of what happens to your freezer after about 12 hours? All that meat you guys have, like people have stored, goes bad. So you've lost a whole bunch of your protein sources. And now you better hope your dry food, stays dry. And so it's not just like the bombing and like, oh well, they're without power. No, you're starving people at that point because a lot of the world keeps their meat through refrigeration because we've lost a lot of those practices. Because
Mhm.
why would people, even in the Middle Ages when they invented this method, s- salt and store and smoke and store meat? It was for sieges. It was to get through winter. It was, and we don't have that anymore. And to your that's and so in a roundabout, I'm coming to your point about the garden. It's like, oh yeah, like what happens when I can't get produce at the store anymore because the supply chain has broken down because you know, this malignant narcissist bombed Iran, and they won't open the Strait of Hormuz, and they're good, right? The people in power with the bombs are there, like, okay, cool, whatever. People are behind us, you know. And here's the other thing too. Do you want to be an American traveling abroad anytime soon? I don't, you
No,
know.
we are as associated with Nazis as Germany would be, and as associated with genocide as people from Israel are. I mean, we've seen people from Israel traveling across the globe and being in interactions where they're like, "What the fuck?" Like, and yeah, and we've already seen it. There was a white woman who was clearly a Republican who thought she would go to Ireland in a pub
Yeah, I
and
saw that one.
yeah, and so yeah, like, and that's also like our and to me too, like I 100% get that anger, right? Because like he is destroying everybody's fucking lives, like the and it's not I'm not even gonna be like the decision that we made because I wanna hold some asterisks around all of what are the rat fuckery of our elections, but it is true that, like, we have gone through decades of being encouraged to, like, not really give a shit about local politics and state
Yep.
politics, and that's where these people, um, got a foothold, and because we live in a society where we allow people to bully us, they'll be like, "Oh, you can't call out my racism or my transphobia because that's free speech." And it's like, you are free to be a racist, but you're not free from, like, the peer review of other people who are like, "You're being a fucking racist," right? But because we are unwilling as a people and have been conditioned to make people, like, right? "Oh, don't be disrespectful to people who say bigoted things." That's how we got here, by not
Yep.
paying attention to elections and by not nipping shit in the bud and allowing ourselves to feel discomfort, and our social homeostasis, whether that's in our family or whether that's in our workplace. And the world has a right to be mad at us because we are
Yeah.
fucking lazy socially and politically.
Yeah. They have a
And
right to
that
be
needs to
furious.
fucking change. Also, like, legit at this moment, when I see people be like, "Oh, well, the only thing that we can do is midterm elections," and it's like, "Boo, you have to think of, uh, your responsibility as an American to figure out how to hold a fucking general strike and think about a way to hold succession that doesn't have our nation falling fucking apart if you don't want that ride, right? Because we are not in normal times. Before we got on here, I saw Mark Elias said something like, if you operate from a place of cautiousness when the person that you are going up against is ruthless, and he said it so artfully that like what you are doing is a retreat. And
Yeah.
he's right. Now, again, Mark Elias has a lovely, I mean, he's doing so much
Oh yeah.
work for democracy right now, but he's right. And so it is very, very important for people to literally be talking to people about not only being able to hold a rolling general strike, who in your community can hold it, who cannot, and then also like what are the demands. I mean, I want to know what you think about this, Fred, because I haven't really pitched this to anybody other than on my blogs, but like I was just thinking like, all right, people hold a general strike. We see that a lot of these folks, I mean, it's weird, right? I just looked at a New York Times thing that said that Trump kind of got into this all on his own with Bibi at a president like this. There's this New York Times piece. I'm going to pop it in the chat called like something like, let me see what it's called. It's called, I swear to God, I'm going somewhere with this. How Trump Took the US to War with Iran is what it's called. And
Right.
anyway, like it was a free, I think it was, I don't even remember who shared it. But anyway, that's the link is in there. But he did this all on his own self. And all those people in his cabinet was just like, you do what you want, honey. We'll support you. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So all these people are in on this. So my thought was this, all right, like if we have a general strike, you have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end of the strike. You have to be able to hold the strike until you get what you want. And I think a demand needs to be to have every person in the executive branch and the appointees that they appointed leave, and then have a bipartisan coalition of governors who already have lieutenant governors in the waiting step into those roles and be like, listen, we are going to function temporarily as the executive cabinet because we already have executive expertise, right? Like at least at the
Hmm.
state level, right? And we're going to agree to work together, and we are going to agree that all of us who jump in at this moment, none of us are going to run. So we're not going to be out there doing knives out for the next presidential bid, but it's like we're going to go down in history as the fucking icons who kept the union together during a time when,
Hmm.
so like that is what I think our ask should be for a general strike, is because it's something that's bipartisan, and could everyone who is pissed across the board could put trust in that, because they could say, look, it's not like your guy or my guy, and I'm using guy as a Ohio Midwestern all gender term, but like that's just, what do you think about that? Does that have legs? What would you, as someone who studied history, as somebody who probably interacts with people, I am trying to find a way out of no way, but like until we tell the story of how we get out of this, we don't get out of this. So I'm
I
just
think it's better. I think it's better than I think it's better than some of the other things I've heard around. I mean, like I've heard constitutional amendments, but that like, I think here's the thing is, and where I go back to is Lincoln's suspension of the habeas corpus. If you want a historical example, is that was unprecedented. It was something that was like wasn't in his powers, but it was like, okay, well, either I arrest the governor of Maryland, who is a Confederate sympathizer, even though his state does not want to go, has not left the Union, they're not going to. I arrest him and suspend habeas corpus, or I'm surrounded on all sides by the Confederacy in Washington, D.C., and I have to abandon the Capitol. And I mean, and so I think there are times in your nation in that call for these kind of unprecedented moves. And the thing about it is like our politics right now is fundamentally broken. And I think a lot of people really haven't come and accepted that fact. It's like, okay, we've done the No Kings protest. We've got tens of millions of people turned out. And in normal times, when politicians went too far, they'd see something like that and go, whoa, we better step off the gas a little bit and kind of moderate this. So we're going to suffer defeat, but, we don't want them howling for our blood. So, all right, we'll hold some other people that were the worst defenders accountable, or we'll chastise the fire eaters back in, and we'll moderate our stances, and everything kind of returns to normal. That's not happening at all. In fact, the rhetoric, like, I mean, today, the reason we're talking about this is the president of the United States threatened to destroy a civilization. And where's Congress? Is there an emergency session being convened? No. You know, and so it is. I think you're right. I think it is going to. We are, whether it comes sooner rather than or later, a general strike is going to have to happen because the another no kings protest is not going to do is at this point. Okay, that's not worked. So okay, well, what can we do? Well, we can we can use our refusal to labor, and I think it might. I mean, and it's going to be messy. I mean, it might be rent strikes, it might be labor strikes, it might be a combination of a lot of things to where things start to break down. And it's like, I mean, the first demand is he gets removed from power,
Mhm.
period. You
Yeah.
know, the whole cabinet needs to go, but him first, 100%. Like, whether it's resignation and blah, blah, blah. And, and I mean, it's going to be contentious and it's going to be tough because like, I do not see Trump backing off. I don't see him going there. And that's the thing about these, like people like him, malignant narcissists who have never been told no and never been held accountable. It's not like he's going to go, and I kind of went too far on that one, guys. Yeah. Like, I better calm down. That's never going to happen. So like, if one thing I'm sure about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, I agree, and I wanna, like, kinda I'm wondering too, I'm just pulling in some of the people who are listening and also hearing about this too, so National Update today says that a general strike won't work because it's like a World War II tactic that, and this is like a World War III one, and, I would say just looking at that, Trump is already undermined and the intent is to undermine the middle class to if it exists, right?
Right.
But, like, and the working class, like, they're already doing that, right? Right now. I do agree about the denying service for targets and shutting them down. I think one of the ways to make a general strike feasible, and I wonder what National Update would think about this, but we have to start having this conversation with our neighbors, like everywhere. Like I want to suggest everybody instead of having you an open mic night, get you a pub, and it's like, how are we going to strike night? And beers are like half off, right? Like if you want people, like so you need to start having we need to start having conversations about this. But I think also like a rolling general strike that goes from city to city at like where people hold it for a week and it shuts down and they can hold it and then another one passes it on and just make it completely fucking chaotic and for them. Like I think that we need to part of the reason why we need to build parallel systems of support is so that we can hold the strike when it is our turn, right? But I think that we need to make it disruptive. We have to do something. I don't think that I don't think that with the landmass that we have that we're going to be able to all hold it at the same time. I don't know, but we do need to be able to do something because waiting for midterms feels like democracy fan fiction when it is very clear that the individuals currently occupying the executive branch have no intention of abiding by anything that even resembles a democracy. Meanwhile, they're calling us terrorists and saying, "You want to overthrow the U.S. government? Cash Patel's going to spy on you." And it's like, buddy, like project harder, like
Right.
you're. That's what you're all
Right.
doing. Yeah,
Well, and let's think about this is like,
yeah,
okay, let's say we sweep the midterms. Cool. What is that going to do to stop Trump?
right.
Like, if you're going by our system and you're staying like, because again, when everyone says, well, general strike won't work or this won't work or that won't work, it's like, okay, but that framework of saying it won't work is from, well, you're stepping outside of the system. That's not going to work. You got to stay in here. Okay, cool. What if you stay in there and let's say we take back the House? Let's say we have a 40-seat majority. And let's say we get maybe a 1-seat majority in the Senate. So we actually get to pick the Senate majority leader. All right. Like, yeah, I mean, we could do investigations. We can have committee hearings and we can call in witnesses and we can do, let's just say we even have something like the January 6th commission, which was bipartisan. You put Massey on it and you have like, I mean, it's legit down the line. What good did that do?
Hmm.
I'm not saying you don't do it. I'm not saying you don't show up and vote. but it has to be a yes and.
Yeah.
It can't just be, well, I mean, that's well, we got to wait in line, guys. It's like, okay, but I don't want to wait in line. Let's go through the side door, or let's kick it in, or break a window, and let's go in there and see what's up. No, 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 no. This we got to wait in line. The line's not moving though. Yeah, but we got to wait in line because they told why. Well, the sign says we got to wait in line. We are in a we are in a moment that none of us planned for, that none of us thought we'd be here. Like I said, earlier in the hour, like I didn't think January 6th was gonna be a thing. I literally woke up and I was like, "What the heck's going on? Is it a riot?" And I remember sitting there watching it the whole day, just
Yeah.
baffled, on the phone with my friends that I talk about politics with. And I thought, "This is the worst day in our republic." And I'm like, "There's no way he's getting out of this." And now here we are. And at some point, I'm just like, is Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, gonna get it done? Are these corporatist Democrats that all seem to always say, well, before we talk about the genocide in Gaza and Lebanon, can we have to say that you agree that Israel has a right to exist? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stopping the genocide in Gaza and Lebanon. How do we stop? Can we do that? Can we please stop that? Well, but we can. But you got to. No, 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 no. I'm tired of stipulating to things. I've done that. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to stop the problem. How do we stop the problem? That's the only solutions I want to hear. You
And
know.
I think that I wish I could unpack that statement because it is so manipulative. Um, because, the right to exist, what it does in that sentence is certainly Darvo in the sense that deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender, because you're threatening another people's existence. And then by
Mhm,
taking on that thing and making someone say you have the right to exist, right? It throws people back to talking about the Holocaust. And the
mhm,
Holocaust is horrible, but what is happening is that war criminals are using all of there are more Jews who live across the world globally.
mhm,
My father was Jewish before he converted to Catholicism to marry my mother. Um, there are more Jews across the globe than exist in Israel, and they are using all Jewish people as a human shield and saying, "Remember the Holocaust, that happened, so we have a right to exist." And what they're actually doing is making Jewish people across the globe less safe than they ever were because of this. So they are actually, in their war crimes, creating situations that make it less safer for Jewish people all around the globe. Meanwhile,
mhm,
Israel bombed one of the oldest Jewish temples in Iran today. You didn't hear that on the news. So this idea is absolute fucking horseshit.
mhm,
And I would like to remind everybody that Jewish people are not the only Semitic people as well, since we're here, since we're on the chat, right?
right.
So I always wanna give people, like, a kind of way to unpack that, because I feel like when you get boxed into a corner by people, it's, like, really hard to find your way out of it in a moment, and people who are manipulative get you in those situations to put you on the back foot so that you're not calling out what they're doing.
Right, exactly. And and I wrote a piece last week where I basically said nations don't have a right to exist. People do. And look, I wanted to boil it down to a very simple premise because this is something that again, it's always it's people want, and we always fall for this on our side because when you want to have a good faith debate with somebody, it's like you try to show like, okay, well, I'll give you this or I'll give you that. And it's like, but often what happens is you they keep pivoting and you never actually get to have the conversation you're trying to have. And so the best way is to flip it back on them and say, okay, well, here's what I believe. Nations don't have a right to exist, but people do. Are you saying that about Israel? No, I'm saying that about every single nation. That there are conditions that you can go too far where it's like, no, we're not going to have that nation exist anymore. Like Nazi Germany. you know? And they said, "Well, Germany still exists." I'm like, "But does the state of Nazi Germany still exist?" No,
Right.
it's gone. It was it's done, right? And so, like, but the people of Germany, they still exist. They're still there, right? And so it's that's what I'm saying is because when if you agree with me that people have a right to exist, then my next point with you is like, okay, well then you shouldn't support the genocide in Gaza. You shouldn't support the genocide in Lebanon. That you shouldn't be cool with bombing civilians in Iran. Because if people have a right to exist, you know, and again, I'm but even still, I got called anti-Semitic, which is funny because I'm like, no, man, I'm arguing. I, I'm not saying I'm not. It's not a Jewish conspiracy. It's not some big cabal. It's none of those tropes. It's literally just the people in charge in Israel that are human beings that are running a government are fascists. Just like the people in charge in the United States right now that are the main asshole that is threatening to destroy a civilization is a fascist.
So is Putin, and it's the same shit, right? And it's allowing yourself to be manipulated by this. And meanwhile, the genocide in Palestine and enabling it for that same reason by not pushing back on the premise of what is the condition of your state? Is your state a fascist apartheid state? Have like
Yeah,
that that matters, right? That matters
yeah,
a lot. So I think that and then obviously that has now enabled a genocidal attempt in Lebanon. Like we're seeing a genocide, not even an attempt,
yeah.
enacted in Lebanon right now, right? And
Mhm.
also in Iran. I mean, what is happening in Iran is also genocidal in the sense that they weren't doing nothing. Like I am not saying that like I am not saying anything about the people who lead Iran and what Iran is doing in relationship to his people. What I'm saying is they didn't start shit with the United States and we just went and bombed them because Bibi went and gave a fancy PowerPoint presentation to Trump when JD
Right.
Vance was overseas. Like literally check out that New York Times article how Trump took the US like that thing that I put in the chat from the New York Times.
Oh
Like
yeah, no, and that's the
it
other
was
thing
all
that
Trump.
like the Israel apologists that I got all last week was, well, you're saying that Israel's leading the U.S. and like they're a junior partner. It's like, okay, I'm not taking anything away from Trump. He's the president. It's absolutely his responsibility. He shouldn't have done that. But Netanyahu's wanted to do this for a long time. He just found the first president that was stupid enough and horrible enough to be flattered to go along with this crap because
Right.
he wants to be a dictator. He wants to
Right.
be because he said it multiple times. He's like, "Well, look at me. I'm the one that tamed Iran. None of these other people that you think are so great could do it, but I could do it." Yeah, there's just one problem there, Trump. You didn't do it.
Right.
You didn't. And now he's looking for the off ramp. He's looking for some desperate way to save face. You know,
Yeah.
he wants everybody to talk about him and again, this is why all this human psychology is difficult to comprehend, right? Is because it could be multifaceted. It's like, oh, he wants everybody to talk about him. He wants everybody to be afraid. He wants everybody to hate him, but he also is terrified and wants an off ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I mean, and two, like, the thing about why it is so easy people have said this about Trump, and I thank you for reposting that, Carol. I really appreciate you, Carol, reposted the article. Like, the thing is that, like, again, with narcissists, they're so shitty, but they actually have no sense of their own fucking convictions, and the moment that someone gives them a bit of attention, like the last person in their ear, they'll just fucking do whatever. I mean, like, again, it's not just a Trump thing, it's like a narcissism thing because they so badly wanna feel like the big kid, right? And what you're seeing is, like, all of these people who have no real claim to leadership who are now cabinet members in this executive branch. I gag when I call it an executive branch, but Yeah, and I also wanna point out too that, like, this war is ongoing and that I also found out today, and I think that this is important to know, is that the double tap, um, is a thing that Hegseth is apparently just saying, "Yeah, we're gonna do this now." They just double tapped a bridge in Iran, so they bombed the bridge, and then when rescue workers came, they bombed it again. They did that with the school in Manab, and they also did it off the coast of Venezuela. Like, again, if I may mess up George W. Bush, fool me once, don't get fooled again, right? Like, if I may, like,
Yeah, because Higseth, he likes to pretend he's some war fighter, so he likes to use these terms like lethality and double tap, because that's a shooting tactic. It's part of the 2-in-1 drill. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
tell me. Sure.
so the 2-in-1 drill is a pistol drill. You can also do it with a rifle, any kind of semi-automatic weapon. And so there's this to get into it. Basically, what it is you do two quick pulls of the trigger, which is meant to double tap in the center mass, and then the weapon's natural sort of recoil will rise up to about head height, and then you one more shot,
Jesus.
and you and the reason they used to call it the Mozambique drill, and they changed it obviously because of the problems with it, and they call it the 2-in-1 drill. And what there is a small percentage in the human circulatory system where if you get shot, and so most people, like 97% of the time, if for like you take so much damage, you can you basically just die, right, instantly from massive trauma. But there is a small percentage where and you can enhance this with drugs and everything else, where your circulatory system actually shuts down
Mhm.
and you're still alive, and you can still pull triggers and fight. And so you can see it in war, where it's like people have been perforated multiple times and they're still fighting, and they'll fight for several minutes, and then they'll just kind
Yeah,
of fall over and they're dead, because basically, like, you what happens is your body just the trauma response was so overwhelming, it shuts that down, and you're basically just running on, like,
adrenaline.
you yeah, it's like a chicken with its head cut off.
Mhm.
It's a similar kind of circulatory response. And so, but what they found is, like, and this is why zombie movies do this, is if you destroy the brain pan, that doesn't happen, right? So the 2-in-1 drill is designed to inflict massive trauma to the body, and then you ride it up, and then so that stops any percentage that's going to happen. So when he says double tap, that's part of the 2-in-1 drills. It's the double tap and then the ride up. But it makes him sound like he's a lethal warrior and blah blah. And it's like, this is all about killing human beings, man. It's very serious and grim and horrible business, no matter what it is, whether it's a bomb or it's a pistol or it's a rifle or it's a grenade or whatever. You know, this should not be talked like you're a faux tough guy in an air conditioned building, looking at numbers on a spreadsheet. And you can't ever forget that those are people that are not like, and that's the problem I have with guys like Hegseth. You know,
Yeah.
he's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, he's committing war crimes right now, right? He wants to
Right.
be seen, like, as such a tough, and I mean, and I also think if I the two nations that I know who, as of late, who are using double taps, which again is a war crime, is Israel and Russia, right? Over and over again. And it
Mhm.
is so cruel to do this to rescue workers. And the thing is that I'm not surprised at Hegseth, who is someone who clearly has no moral center, right? And is evil. He is an evil person. He looks evil as an adjective is when you look at another human being and you don't see someone with a family, you don't see someone with hopes and dreams, you just see them as an object and or less than an object that's an obstacle in your way just to get rid of. And that is the textbook definition of evil. And obviously, Pete Hegseth falls in that. He has no fucking moral center, no discernment. So, am I surprised at all that Pete Hegseth is demonstrating the same kind of war crimes that Israel has been committing in the Middle East for some time now? Not one bit. Not one bit.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, I mean, and it's, every time I would hear him speak where he gleefully talks like some 14-year-old kid, like who's played Call of Duty or something, like stupid stuff I said when I was 13. And I've never been to combat. I've trained for combat, but I've never been to combat. But I've had, I hurt my knees, uh, but my old unit was deployed overseas, and I saw friends that came back that were gone.
Mhm.
Physically, they're still here, but they're gone. They're not even close to the same guys that, it's like we do a drill weekend. It's like, oh man, you guys want to go to Chili's and get some beers? Man, screw all this, blah, blah. No, they're gone. They
Yeah.
got the service animals and and I mean, I remember the nice ladies that worked at the student center when I was at East Tennessee State University, and they'd come get me in my back office because I'm the office manager as a grad student and say, hey, there's a veteran out here, could you deal with them? Because they were uncomfortable
Yeah.
because they didn't know how to deal with somebody with complex PTSD that had that 1,000-yard stare, that had no emotional reaction when you talk to them because they're
Yeah, that
gone.
kinda dissociation is really tough when someone drops into a
Yeah.
dissociative state right in
And
front of you.
and they're just, I mean, and it's like, "Oh, he's terrifying." I said, "Nah, he's just going through it, man."
He's in the
You know?
well.
Yeah, and I'd come talk. I was like, "Hey, bro, what's up?" And yeah, it's like, "Oh, hey, is you served?" "Yeah, I was in the reserves, man, but, what's up? Let me help you walk through this." And I look at Hegseth, and you would think a guy, like you would know this. They don't care. They don't care.
No, no, I don't
And
think they
here's
do at all.
and here's the problem with this for all these people that say, "Oh, support the troops and this and that." There are gonna be civilians in Iran and Lebanon, especially Gaza. They're all going through that. And forget losing their families, which a lot have, that have survived and seen their neighbors killed, their friends killed, extended, like, have lived through, like, is today the day they're gonna drop the bombs on my house? That I'm gonna have to dig myself out of the rubble? Today the day when I'm going to school that, somebody decides to pop my little sister, you know? And I mean, like, I mean, I had to take a break just from Substack because it's like I got into organizing and politics because of Iraq, or because of the lies from the Bush regime,
Mhm.
you know? And, you know, and then I saw the Iran thing kick off and I knew, like, oh man, this is
It
gonna
was
be
it was
even
the
worse.
exact same shit, like, I'm sure you
Same
were
stuff.
yeah,
Well, I was
we
triggered.
got
I
into
mean, it
politics
triggered
at the same time,
all
same
that from
reasons.
'03, you know, and seeing the backpacks with the blood on them from them little girls that got killed in the bombing. And I was like, man, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't, it was hard. I was like, I gotta get away from this. I can't, because it's like, it's happening all over again. Like that was my feeling. I'm like, here it is. So this is how he dodges from the Epstein files, you know, is he's like, we're going to go to war in Iran. And I'm just like, these people are mad. They're insane. Because that was the plan from the Bush regime, was they were like, we're going to go into Iraq because Iraq's army in '03 was a shell of its former self. There was not much left of it. We're going to go in there and we're going to stage, and we're going to have the coalition of the willing, and we're going to find some excuse to go into Iran, and we're going to have all the oil in Iraq and Iran. And they got into Iraq, and it was so bad. They went, the Bush regime, which was not known for being that smart to begin with,
Mm.
they got in there with the coalition of the willing, 30 nations, 250,000 troops, and not a generation of the global war on terror grinding it down. And the support of the world because of 9/11 still. Even they were like, yeah, Ron, that's oh yeah, that's too much. We can't do it. Even
Right.
they thought those cowboys, George Bush, who literally had cowboy diplomacy named after his diplomacy, said we can't do Iran. And these fools think they can kill the Ayatollah and they're somehow going to win. I was like, man, this is terrifying because because knowing Trump, what happens when he realizes, oh, this ain't Venezuela, and I can't just declare victory and I'm done
Right.
because the Iranians are not going to play that, because what a lot of people forget is we didn't take out the government of Venezuela. We just kidnapped their president, the first lady, and the government said, "Cool. Do you want the same deal we've been offering to you? Yeah, yeah, we'll do that. Okay, thanks, man." That's how that went down. And the Iranians who were like, you know, "Oh, great. You just gave us a external enemy to focus on when our populace hated us? Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. We're gonna do that now." You know, like, are you gonna retaliate against us? No, I'm gonna retaliate against all of our neighbors and blame it on you. And literally now, like, so, and again, and this is where foreign policy gets murky. So even though MBS, uh, you know, the crown prince in Saudi Arabia,
And journalist torture.
right? Yeah, who he was one of the ones that was also convincing Trump. Oh yeah, go on Iran. These stay with
Right,
us.
of
Blah
course.
blah. Because he's a moron too, right? Because he's been, his whole life been given everything he wants.
Nepo baby.
Right. And he got upset because it's like, hey, the US was supposed to protect us and you guys didn't, and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, because warfare's changed, if you hadn't noticed, in Ukraine. And so all those, the Iron Dome and all those missiles, they don't mean shit anymore because of because of what Ukraine's done with drones and the nature of warfare shifting. Because it used to be for doctrinally for about 80 years, if you had tanks on the battlefield, you were golden. But there was one flaw that's always with every tank, because I was a trained anti-tank assaultman in the Marine Corps. That's the top part. That's what the javelins, when they came out with, which we were training on next when we got rid of the Dragon round, was they were supposed to they didn't actually penetrate the armor. They flew over the top and then exploded downward into the weakest part of the armor, which is always going to be on the top of the tank. But the tank was supposed to be the most secure thing on the battlefield, and they were supporting the infantry. Well, they never could quite figure out how to get that, where it would explode down and do the most damage until drones. The ones they got in Ukraine, that's why they're so deadly. Because and even like a year ago when they were talking about, well, they need all these artillery shells, they need this and this, and so we didn't give it to them, and the EU was dragging their and hemming and hawing, but they still managed to kill Russians by the bushel. It's because what they do is they have these drone swarms and they have ammunition. When you have an artillery round that hits and explodes, or some explode, above a certain area, you're counting on people being in that area, right? This big area, and being basically massive trauma, casualties, da da da. What a drone does is, with a camera, allows you to look at the area and focus where you want that hit. So you can look at the top of a tank and go, boom. You can either launch the drone into the tank, or you can fire that rocket into the top where you need it to go. So it's, instead of this dummy round where you're just lobbing it like basically some, since the Middle Ages, like, well, let's just shoot it into the air and plot the trajectory and hope it lands where we want it to, which you can get that pretty accurate. No, you can literally see it where you need it to go. I'll give you an example how deadly Russia is, and this is why I was kind of terrified of us going into Iran. So in World War II, for the casualty rate. Um, 1 out of every 4 people wounded died. This is on the American side, right? So you had basically a 25% chance of dying if you were wounded across the board in World War II on the American side. You get to Vietnam, it was 1 in 6, 1 in 7. So it's improving because we have better medical care getting to the front. By the time you get to like Iraq, it's 1 in 12, 1 in 11. And in some places in Afghanistan, it's 1 out of 20. You want to know what the Russian death rate is per casualty right now in eastern Ukraine?
Hmm.
56%. 56. Keep in mind, World War II, on our side, it's 25%. For them, it's 56. It's a meat grinder. It
Yeah.
is, it is just, I mean, that's why and their tanks are being demolished. And the Iranians have the same drones and the same tactics that would be used against us if we made a landing.
Right.
56. Even if we lowered that, you're talking 45. You're getting 1 out of 2. So you send in the Marines without a mission. I mean, thousands of service personnel, they're not coming home automatically. They're just not.
Well, and Hickseth isn't also, I mean, Hickseth isn't, he is masking the deaths and
Yeah.
masking any intelligence coming out. I mean, there's zero transparency, and my guess is that the casualty rate is
Oh, it's
much
much higher.
higher. Yeah, and I mean, I also want to say like my that is I am not in any way trying to distract away from the massive casualties in Iran, most of whom are not civilians who are just trying to fucking live under a fascist dictatorship or a theocracy. Feel any vibes here, my friends? Like, I mean, if you're living in the States, we're just trying to like live through Tuesday, right? This is the population, right? Like we have more in a connection with our neighbors in Iran, right? Um,
Yeah.
and they're the ones who are really getting, you know, hurt in this because we're also, I mean, I'm just saying that like I'm not saying that like I just feel like at this point it's hard for me to just focus on the casualties that are soldiers in the US because you know it almost, yeah, the whole thing.
No, it's overwhelming. And that's the thing you know, I mean, I even saw some people who were like, no, you shouldn't doubt about the down helicopter pilot and the circumstances with that, or no, you shouldn't, because why would they lie? It's like they always lie
I
when they're
know, what the fuck?
go back to Vietnam when they lied about My Lai and the massacre that happened there for years. When I mean, go back to the Pentagon Papers for God's sakes. Like when wars go badly, the US government lies about it. They try to cover it up. That's
Yeah,
just how it is,
yeah.
and like and again, you're not obligated. And I'm saying this as a veteran. You are not obligated to focus on the casualties, you know, like the only, but if where you're obligated is if you're anti-war, do what you can to try to stop it, to at
Mhm.
least speak out on it.
Right.
I'm not pro-war. I'm anti-war
Yeah.
because I was trained and understand what that does and what like and as someone who studied war, it doesn't solve problems. It just creates more. That's
Yeah.
all it does.
Yeah, and I
Regime
feel,
change isn't a thing, you
yeah.
know?
No, because you can't, I mean, like, I forget which military figure here said, like, you no amount of bombing, no, like, can change, like, the more you harm a civilian population, the more you harden it, and you can't win a ground war with people that you have just humiliated because they're on home turf and you have just ruined their fucking lives. Like, they have nothing left to lose.
Iranian citizens were protesting against their government, and their government was killing them, right? Whatever the figures, it doesn't really matter. I don't care if it's 2 or 20,000. They were killing their own people. What did they do today? They were occupying bridges, and they were, to your point, hardening it, and turning you against the invader. Is they were occupying bridges and power plants and acting as human shields
Yeah.
because we killed their leader. Because whether it was a mistake or not, little girls in a school got killed by a bomb twice because of double tap. Because Pete Hegseth thought it sounded cool, because God knows, and I wouldn't surprise me. It's like, well, we actually farmed that out to AI. Of course you did. Or whatever. You messed up and you killed people in a school. And now you're going to try to justify it as a military target. And you have like Iranians going out and I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine like Americans doing that? Where if like a
No.
country threatened to bomb us and we're like, oh, you're going to bomb our power plant? Well, you know what? Let's everybody go down and we're going to hold up American flags and dare you to bomb us. And like, and you want to have a regime change that's going to be, you think that a regime change is going to be friendly to us? Come on, man. Like that French general said, yeah, the Americans need to quit snorting cocaine between meetings. Y'all
Like,
snorting something. You snorting something.
well, I mean, like, legit, we saw Marco Rubio in the middle of a hearing popping pills, right? We've got a Secretary of Health who has talked about snorting coke, who
Off the
has
toilet seat. Off
yes,
the toilet seat.
like, the amount of and what is so insulting, and I think that it is the point, is they are going after our neighbors in North America and South America by being like, "Oh, you're drug traffickers," and it's like, I have never seen so many fucking drug addicts in one executive cabinet in my goddamn life. You wanna talk about drugs? Let's do a little drug task force in the executive branch. Let's start there.
Or let's I'll tell you what, let's go after our homegrown real drug cartels that have decimated Appalachia and West Virginia and where I used to live for 20 years, East Tennessee.
No, we just let them off the hook, don't we?
Yeah. Well, oh no, we give them money.
The Sackman family, right?
All the Oxycontin and all that, where they flooded it and made more money than Mexican drug cartels could, like South American drug cartels could even dream of. Millions and billions of dollars. Big Pharma going like, here you go, here's some Oxycontin. No, I told you it's fine. Yeah. Like here's some script. Take this. It's not addictive. Oh well, yeah, it's one of the most addictive drugs known to man. Okay, but what happened to them? Oh, we can't punish them. But we got to think about the profits, man.
Right.
And it's. I mean, we have Canadians pissed off at us for good reason.
All
The
of the
nicest people on earth, you know, except for those crazy folks in Alberta. I don't want to get into that. I'm not going to disrespect them, but they're mad at us, for good reason. Canadians. What? I mean, this is the thing that like just frustrates all of us, and why we're all living through this, and that's why we can't forget this moment. You can't forget the day because they're going because weeks are going to go by. You're going to take a breath, and you're going to be okay, yeah, but something else is going to come. This, our narcissistic abuser in chief. It's something else is going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and this is going to be, I mean, and that's the thing too, is that, like, just like with the decapitation strikes, I mean, I know that probably every leader of a democracy is, like, sitting on edge. I mean, I can't, like, what if they keep on doing this? So, I mean, the same thing is, like, you if we do not nip this shit in the bud and not, please, I beg of you, do not listen to I mean this with love. I get it that there are some people who are very talented, that come from mainstream media, but you need to understand that what they did their entire career was say, "What are Democrats gonna do? What are Republicans gonna do?" Because it keeps you in the question, it keeps you thinking about democracy functioning, and so they've left mainstream media, they're coming here, they're saying the same thing, and they're gonna try to loop you back into that story about, "What are Democrats gonna do? What are Republicans gonna do?" And the thing is that we are slowly losing all of our democratic ways to push it back against this, not because because Republicans are no longer playing a democracy story. And so I am
No.
just so worried that people will get lulled into the 24-hour news cycle here. And some of the very talented people from mainstream media who have for years turned politics into a political horse race, getting you to think about blue teams and red teams. And
Mhm.
people are just going to be lulled back into that infotainment. And because those people don't have the range to talk about organizing, just commentating on politics as they exist, that people are not going to use this window of time to say, fuck no, take the keys away from Gramps. He is out of here.
Yeah.
Because that's
Well,
that's what everyone needs to resolve themselves to today.
one and part of like one of the reasons I like talking to folks like you and like I kind of changed like for my Substack and I became a progressive independent where I'm not beholden to any party and I'm not carrying water for any party anymore is I care more about democracy and I care about people understanding, and again to your point, this is the trick, right? Is because it's the limiting thing that they'll do. And it's never to change the status quo. Like we talked about, well, a general strike wouldn't work. That'll be their is the well, universal healthcare's got a lot of problems, you
Mhm.
know. But Heather Cox Richardson put this out, and this is kind of where I always stand with. You think about the country you want to live in, and don't be like you are not like none of us are consultants. You don't need to speak like a consultant. You don't need to talk like you're a party insider, you know? Like, stop doing that. It's okay for you to say, "I don't want there to be any homeless people in America."
Right.
Okay. And it's like, "Well, how are you gonna do it?" "I don't know, but
Get
what the
them
way we're doing it
housed.
now is not working."
Fuck.
Like, when you said, "Well, I think we should do with governors and da da da," I'm like, "You know what? That's not a half bad idea."
Right. And that's like,
Get rid
yeah,
of the whole cabinet and then just, have a board of governors and go, all right, well, this is what we're going to do to save the republic until we can have an election and, da 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 da. It's like, we're going to do that. And it's like, well, it's going to be challenged in the courts. Yeah, but the Constitution says the states get to decide elections. So, okay, well, this is extraordinary time. We're going to do this. And you know what? Out of all the ideas I've seen floating around, that's actually feasible and not half bad.
thank you, I appreciate you. But I mean, and that's the thing is that, like, it needs to be workshopped, and this is the thing too is that, like,
Right.
legit, like, so there's this person I really appreciate, although I don't actually know her name, but she said, I don't know, Manera, if you're out there, I appreciate this post that you did. She said that politics and resisting to fascism is kind of like improv. You can't just be like, nope, that's not going to work because this, and this. You say, okay, how can we make this work? How can we put these things together? Right. So, but we need to start seriously having these conversations because when one side is trying to play by the book of democracy while the other side is literally taking a wrecking ball
Does
to all of the institutions and processes, you are getting trapped in a system.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you have to, so I think what it is that, and it's interesting because they are clearly so far gone constitutionally, but then they're pettily enforcing the law, right? In these, like, just doing like just crazy shit, right? Like calling community organizers terrorists and shooting them in the face, right? Or 10 times in the back while they're disarmed, right? There's, but so, like, someone will come in like a wet blanket and be like, "Well, that's not in the Constitution." Well, none of this fucking shit was either.
I'll give you guys an example of how they stymie any kind of progress, right? And it's so they don't have to take a stand because God knows politicians don't want to take a stand because you lose your perks, you lose your donors, like, but that's part of the job, right?
Right.
So, you know, no, notice this conversation around trans folks, right? It always comes down to, well, you know, there's trans people as athletes, and there's uncomfortable bathrooms. Well, I don't know. I mean, that could lose us with middle America. Da, da, da. Okay, here's how you frame that. Trans people are people. They deserve full rights. Stop. And when they say, well, what do you mean by that? No, 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 no. Do you think trans people are people? Well, yeah, of course they are. Okay, then they deserve full civil rights, right? I mean, all people deserve full civil rights, right? You stick it to them, and then you say, "Well, but what?" No, no, no. It's your job to figure out how to deliver that. That's not my job. I'm telling you the country I want to live in. They're human beings. They deserve rights. Full stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's up to you, politicians, to go figure out how to deliver that country for us.
Right, and it's also not that hard, like, speaking to you as, as a non-binary person who teaches trans studies, I gotta tell you this, I teach in, red, rural Ohio, and I'm not gonna say where I teach because I don't want some upset person, but I teach at, on a campus with 3 fucking buildings. Only 2 of them have classrooms. We have more all-gender bathrooms on our campus than any of the other regional campuses in the system. There are 2 all-gender bathrooms. They were before the male and female bathrooms right outside of our learning commons, and they have, students of all genders, regardless, will go in there without issue in this red rural area, and it just says bathrooms. That's all they put on there, bathrooms. So people of all genders going in these bathrooms in a red rural area, and if someone takes a number 2, they have the courtesy to lock the outside door. That and that is the humanity we appreciate from other people. Like,
Right.
wash your hands and lock the door if you're taking a shit. So, like, that's my platform. So
Well, I mean, and everyone's always, well, I don't know how we solved this and blah, blah. Okay.
it's not
For,
hard.
no, it isn't. Because I'll give you an example. So in the science building at East Tennessee State University, right, where they also have math and science, the way they built it is it was built in like, I think like in the 50s or 60s. So, and we had General Shale, brick shale plant. So a lot of those buildings are all brick, and they were built by those functional engineers in the 1960s, where it's just square brick building that looks like a brick and 3 stories, and you've got classrooms on either side, and you had bathrooms at the ends of the hall, right?
Mhm,
So the way they were when I went there, in the early aughts, is you had the men on this side, and the women's was all the way down here on this side. Guess what both bathrooms had in them? Urinals.
mhm.
Do you know why they had urinals in them? Because
Yes.
back then, when the building, and you know this, when the buildings were built, well, women didn't become engineers. So why would you need a women's bathroom in the engineering building? You just need men's bathrooms. And so you have men's bathroom on this side and a men's bathroom on that side. How did they change it? Did they remove the urinals? No, they just slapped women on the door. That's it.
Mhm.
Still have the urinals in them. I don't think most women used them, because they were the ones that went all the way to the floor. But I mean, they used, they basically said the 2 or 3 stalls they had, and the toilets, that was it. But that's how that was progress. It's like, okay, well, one of them's women. No.
Right, and I mean, like, legit too, like, I just, so much of the focus on trans people, in bathrooms is just so bananas. I mean, as Jeff said, just like the toilets in my bathroom, right? We all share toilets, and the 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 people who frame that idea of trans people as being a danger, right? And what if they go in the bathroom and they're gonna attack women? No, like, that is just a red herring to get you to turn away from the fact that, like, hello, Epstein files. I don't even need to, like, go any further than that. Like, it's turning a group of people who pose no danger, who actually experience more danger in the bathrooms, and, like, offloading all of the shit you're doing, the danger that you actually are to women and children onto trans people, right? And then the sports thing, like, it doesn't even there is so much peer review data out there around the sports thing that, like, I'm not even gonna get into it, but I'm
Right.
gonna tell you this, it's a non-issue. It's just that they want to introduce situations where you're thinking about trans people, in particular trans women, in closed door spaces with other women, and then trying to get a knee-jerk reaction out of you and to say, "Oh, trans women are dangerous." They pose you no fucking problem. At all.
I
And yeah.
I've got a solution. I have a radical solution for the if there were the eventuality of a trans woman attacking another woman in the women's bathroom. You want to hear it? It's crazy radical. You prosecute that trans woman for attacking that other woman. And here's something even more radical. You also prosecute cisgendered men for attacking and abusing girls.
And
What?
you prosecute cisgender women who attack trans women in the
Oh
bathroom, which
my
happens
god.
all the time.
That's That sounds insane.
But
And
I
again,
mean,
I don't know how many like Fusen Yudin, who's like a friend of mine. I don't know how many times she posts where she's in the bathroom with her partner Lena, and some woman comes up to her and harasses her. She's minding her own business, to your point, and she gets harassed. And again, but again, it's the same thing with when they say, "Do you think Israel has a right to exist?" or "What do you think about trans women in bathrooms?" Or but it is designed to move the debate away from the thing you're talking about.
right,
And so it's like, you know what? I don't think we should bomb other countries that don't pose a direct threat to us. Like if they're not actively attacking us, I don't think we should bomb them. I think we should use diplomacy. Yeah, well, what about Iran getting a nuclear weapon? I don't. Let me state again. You might not have heard me. I don't think that we should bomb other countries that are not actively attacking us,
right.
including Iran. You
Yeah,
know, it's like,
agreed.
yeah, but what if they got a nuclear weapon? Oh well, then I guess we would deal with it then, huh?
Right.
You know,
And not I mean, and it's such a
I mean,
it's
Russia
just
is not our friend. They have nuclear weapons. I mean, there's a lot of countries that don't like us, like China. They have nuclear weapons, and we're not attacking them. So why is Iran? Why is Iran any different?
dead oil.
Oil in Israel, you know. And again, like, well, they're going to attack Israel. I don't know. How about we kind of pressure Israel to not be a dick, you know? If they're the junior partner, why don't we do that? I mean,
I don't want them to be junior partners at all. I think that they need to take care of their
right.
own shit. Like, I mean, it's truly, like, I mean, like, I
It's
they're their
time to
own
grow up,
country.
Johnny. Training wheels are coming off.
Put on your big girl panties. Like, you can't,
You got a
um
country now. Go defend it, you
well,
know?
and it's not even that. I mean, like, they have been an apartheid I mean, like, they have been
Yeah.
an apartheid state for decades. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there's an essay in this very dated book, I think from the '90s, In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, that has an essay about the apartheid state, right? The relationship between Israel and Palestine, and I'm just I think that because the United States is rooted in white supremacy and it is itself an apartheid state that never wants to look at itself as an apartheid state, just like it resisted standing up to South Africa, doing the same. It aligns itself with other apartheid states. And then you saw that vote in the UN where that was denouncing chattel slavery, and the United States was like, "No, we don't think that that was, like, a bad thing deserving of reparations." Right? So, I mean, like, that in and of itself tells you so much about why the United States stands up for Israel and why people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, who don't even go here if they make, quote, "mean girls," like they're I'm sorry, I had to. But, like, that's why they're so butthurt about what happened in South Africa because they liberated themselves from an apartheid state, right?
Yeah.
So, like, all of this fascism, like, stems from this space of racial apartheid, you know? It's not I mean, you don't really have to look any further than that, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and the crazy thing is, like, I remember I was in a discussion with somebody, and while they were talking about, I don't know how a two-state solution would work. I don't know how this would work. And I said, or the Israel could just make Palestinians full citizens, and then it's like you got to live together. And they're like, well, that would never happen. I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, we started down that path with African Americans, you know, so why can't it happen? Well, it's like, oh, because they couldn't be an ethno state that's based on, like an extremist religion. I, well, I guess you're gonna have to live with the people that are there. Darn, figure it out. You
And
know.
I mean, like, I I think the thing is too, is that there are solutions
Mhm.
if you actually consider Palestinians human beings deserving of reparations.
Yeah, or at least a say in the land that they're and not being forced to be occupied and live in an apartheid state. South Africa did it, and it didn't lead to the wholesale slaughter of white folks.
It did not. It did
You
not,
know.
and the very people that Trump claimed were experiencing a white genocide in South Africa left the United States with a quickness, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Yep.
It's important to
And
keep those receipts.
and again, but all this goes down to is people will keep trying to move. They'll say, "Oh, that's utopia," or "That's impossible," or that it's like it's impossible that we can eliminate homelessness in America, but 1.5 trillion for the DoD. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we got all kinds of money for war, all kinds of money, you know. But we can run up the national debt to the heavens and crash the dollar, But cleaning up the ocean with all the plastic in it, no, I can't do that. Even though the UN said it only take about $20 billion to do it.
Right, and I'll do you one further since we're dreaming big here. We could reduce the work week to 20 hours. We don't need to be working 40-hour jobs. See, my dog believes in this. He
I do
knows.
too.
Yeah, see,
Well,
Banjo
and I
agrees
mean,
with us.
and
This was
again,
endorsed.
that's the thing is like
We can do
it's
this shit.
oh yeah, it's funny because when you that's the problem with our politics is because what the people that benefit from this status quo want you to do is before the conversation even starts, they want you to scale it back, right?
Right,
They
exactly.
want you to be
Need
they
less.
don't want you to stand on business. They don't want you to be unapologetic, you know? Your dog wants to go out, right?
Dude, no, like, my husband just let him out. He's just like, "I wanna be on the call." "Come here, dude. You can come here." He's just like, "You're on the screen and you're
You're
talking
on the
too long."
screen and I hear this guy,
Yeah. Well,
it's
now
like,
I feel like I owe the here's what wait, where is
"What's
he?
up, buddy? What are you
Say,
doing? Are
Banjo.
you looking at the door because you hear something?"
He's like, "I'm looking at my dad." He's just
"Dad, what's going on? I don't know what mom's doing, but I don't like
I
it."
know, I wish I could yeah, no, he absolutely is protesting. He's got "Sir, I know, man." So I think he's telling us that we need to wrap it because he's just like, "You gotta yeah, thank you, Zoop." He's a Cane Corso mix, and he likes to Chewbacca when, but I also think it's because he believes in the 20-hour work week. I think that I he's a union leader, and, he's just,
I when I was in aviation, I started I had a 4-day work week, 10 hours a day. And rarely did I ever go over like 45 hours. Like sometimes there'd be like days, a manager, it's like, okay, 3 days off is amazing. Then when I went to mainline, I had to work 5 days a week, but I was mandated because I was management to work 50. So I worked 5, 10 days. I was never more exhausted. I was never more, and again, and I remember like the way they did the sick time was we still had separate sick time, and it was like I said, I can't bank it. They're like, no, if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay, well then I'm just going to use it, you know. And just 4 days at 10 hours a day was fine,
Mhm.
you know. And but again, you notice how that's never that like in these tech bros, these Sam Altman folks, that's never. It's like have more kids, but oh, we're going to cut your jobs and we're going to cut all your sport, and we're going to cut all the programs that you benefit from that.
Yeah, and if we're while we're talking about it too, I mean, I just wanna just say this from a place of deep working class consciousness here, but the reason why Elon Musk and Sam Altman and all of these other people are so rich is because they know the grift of the United States is to steal money from the United States government from the fucking Pentagon budget.
Yep.
That is all if you think that they're working 40 hours a week, these bros are out here working maybe 5 hours a fucking week. They are stealing from us and then
Hmm.
calling themselves business titans after they have done stolen other people's ideas. And then they wanna even take away the fucking fact of being able to work from home at the exact fucking moment that we've got the heroin recovering person who snorts coke off of the toilet seat taking away all the vaccines. Yeah, absolutely. Let's all go work in the fucking office. What the shit? I
Oh,
just
I
wanna
love I
say
loved it
all
when
this.
I loved it when RFK Jr. backtracked. They're like, "Uh, yeah, maybe you guys need to take some vaccines. I mean, they're safe." It's like when they had all the measles outbreaks. It's like, really, bro? Really? You created this mess. You and your kind. You're anti-vaxxers. You created this mess, and little kids are suffering and getting hurt because of you. Like my God. And
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, like, these people are, like, legit absolutely trying to kill us right now, so I'm just saying, dream big because these people are dreaming of killing you. That's what I am trying to impress upon everybody, like, I feel like at this moment, the only people who should get to speak about the world that they wanna see should be people who are 18 and under, and then our job isn't to say, "It can't happen," but to make it so.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, my politics are pretty simple. Is like, it's like, all right, well, let's try to help as many folks as we can, and if there's problems, let's fix them. I mean, that's
Right.
it. Oh, that's naive, is it though? I mean, what's the point of inventing all this technology, and what's the point of all this abundance, if we can't fix these problems?
Right, well, and they don't want to. I mean, and that's the shittiest part about this is that what we have had in the United States, I think from the beginning, is this core center of people who always knew the fucking grift, and then they create a series of professional athletes and actresses, and then underneath of that, mainstream media commentators, big fancy professors, right? And then it's just like your whole thing is about making it big in this country and wanting what they want, right? Meanwhile, they're like, "You deserve all of the shit that befalls you. You deserve all of the bankruptcy. You deserve to live paycheck to paycheck." I mean, like, the United States keeps its people in trauma because they want to. And it's wild because we have this allegedly this very high petrodollar, and everyone's like, "Oh, Americans are rich," and it's like, "Honey, most of us can't even afford a plane ticket." So it's a situation where the people who are super rich are the people who make all this fucking money, and then they tell you that like what you want is not possible, but they have broken adults into accepting less. So I say let the young people say exactly what they want, and then let's write the fucking policy to make it because we're all fucking broken. We'll be like, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?"
Yeah, I mean, I've lost like I've been steadily losing paid subs, and I can't be mad at it because a lot of the reasons, and I feel bad because a lot of people they say, "Oh man, I'm going through it." I'm broke. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? So I made everything free. I'm just like, man, I can't put a paywall up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and it's just, I mean, yeah, I love the sport and all that stuff, and it's great. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just, it's hard. I mean, as a caregiver, I've done the grocery shopping in my house, so I remember, and it's interesting because during the pandemic, we did we'd sign up for the delivery thing, right? And it's you get the $30 minimum. You don't get charged the fee, but I still tip the driver and all that good stuff and blah 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 blah. So I remember what $30 would get me. And because I'm used to living broke because I move so much, it's like I always look for the specials on sale and this and that and that.
Mhm.
And what used to be 3 bags went to 2 bags, went to 1 bag.
Yeah.
you know and so and I think that's what gets lost when people talk about it, because it's like, well, like groceries are up 4.7%. Like, people don't talk like that. People go, damn, $30 don't go a lot no more. I used to be able to get 2 or 3 bags of stuff. Now I can't. I can't get what I used to. you know
Yeah, yeah, and that was and it's just gotten I mean, and it's not just the groceries, it's also the fucking rent.
yeah.
And the thing is that, like, I get so pissed about the anti-immigrant sentiment that gets put out around housing because it's actually fucking venture capitalists buying up all the fucking houses and jacking up
Right.
people's rents. So it's like they do this shit to us all the time. They wreck shit and then they tell you that somebody else did it and that the life that you want is not possible, but we have all the money in the fucking world to go kill other people who are doing nothing to us. So when I tell you
Yep.
they are trying to kill you, dream big. And then the same thing too is
Yeah.
like all these people that are like, oh man, they stole all this money from the treasury. I think two things. And hear me out when I say this. And I'm interested to know what you think about this, Red. But two things. One, all this money that they take, I say we take it back from these people like fucking pinatas after this. We don't get
Oh
to keep ill-gotten gains that you stole. But the other part is this: even if that's not the case, even if there's no way to recover that, money is a fucking fiction.
yeah. It is.
So
It's not
I am
basic.
just saying, we all a dollar means a dollar because we believe it's a dollar. We can make another goddamn system. We don't have to be like, oh, they bankrupted us. There's nothing we can do. We have to accept this Bitcoin and this social currency by the techno fascists and accept their chips in our arms or some crazy dumb bullshit. No, we don't. Stop believing that rich people you have to do what rich people tell you to do. I cannot handle this. Climate change is real, money is a fiction. Human
Right.
beings are real, money is a
It's
fiction.
fiction. Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing. And again, this is how they tamp down the art of the possible or whatever, right? Is, you know, well, if we get 270 members in the House and we make sure we primary enough progressives, and then if we get 70 senators, by golly, we might just be able to remove the cap on Social Security for the payroll tax, and we can tax billionaires another 3%. And boy, that's some pie in the sky thinking. And so that's what they want you to think is pie in the sky, which it used to be much more. Instead of us going, Elon Musk um, did some nefarious stuff and stole all of our data with Doge and did these cuts that cost tens of millions of people their lives through starvation. You know what? Since we paid um most of his way with all these these grants and this and subsidies, we're just going to get SpaceX and Tesla and everything he owns continent in the United States, and we're going to give it back to the American people.
Exactly. And oh,
But
and
then,
by the
but
way, yeah,
someone would look at me and go, "Oh my God, that's so radical." It's like, no, 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 no. All the harm he did, we're going to take that back. Or this radical notion, which I may have discussed this with you. It's like, so the internet was originally part of the DoD. It was made by the CIA. It was made by Department of Defense. Right. That means it was funded with our tax dollars.
mhm,
And all these people, Microsoft, all these people have made all this money off of it. Why couldn't we say, you know what? You've made all this money off of the internet, which was made by our tax dollars. We want our cut.
mhm, mhm. You
We
driving
want
on
our
our
cut.
horse, baby. Yeah.
We
So,
want our cut. It's
yeah.
like, well, we can't give you part of this company. It's like, okay, then you're going to have to pay a special tax. You're going to have higher taxes because you're using a government funded resource. that was paid by us, and you have not paid us back. In fact, you've done things to avoid those taxes, and you've stolen from the American people. And again, people are going to tell you that is a radical idea, but just think about this in terms of just basic fairness. Is that wrong? No, it's
No.
not. It's not crazy,
Well, and
you know?
also yeah, and friends, I have to, I have to because it's part of who I am. I can't fucking help myself. But radical means something. It means to the root. And do you know what's the root of the fucking problem? Massive income inequality. So as
There it
soon as
is.
that's radical, you can be like, yes, it is. And words mean something. Let me tell you what radical means. This is the root of the problem, and we're going to fucking address it.
Yeah,
Fuck.
1000%. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing about it is like if you went to a doctor's office and you had your right arm chopped off, right? And you're sitting in the lobby and you're bleeding everywhere and everything. I mean, it's like you're fading it out. They go, you know, it's like, hey man, I really need to be seen. I really need to get this arm put back on or I'm gonna die, and they're going like, is that really your problem? Or is it just, you need some B12? No, man, I don't need some B12. My freaking arm's chopped off, you
Right.
know?
Can we
It's
reattach it? Maybe. Can we do something? Can we get a new arm? Yeah, no, and I mean, and that's the thing, like,
I mean, can you at
they
least do like the old West movies and slap hot iron to it, so I don't die, man?
oh,
Like
that's true.
something,
See, you're
you
thinking like
know?
a medic. You're I'm just sitting
Right.
here like, "Can we reattach it? Are we
But
still
yeah, I mean,
bleeding?"
but they're
Yeah.
literally they're seeing like there's a surgery unit back there. They can reattach it. They have everything for it, and they're making you fill out paperwork, so you can, maybe it's like, well, we don't know if that's your problem. And I think you're asking a whole lot of us right now, because we got to save that room in case some billionaire comes in and, he's got a cut and he
Right.
needs emergency surgery. Well, there's none of them in here. I'm here. Can we actually address this problem? Because, like people getting kicked out of their homes. I've read this on Substack when people share their personal stories. It's like you've got, like it might be Kat who was in here was talking about she's living in her car and in the parking lot of the private school that she, sent her kids to for 9 years, they kicked her out. They did that to Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like when he was, like they wouldn't give him a room at a hotel that literally had his statue in front of it, right? And yeah, he made a point like sleeping out there to show like and did, but that's the thing. If they'll do it to Arnold, by God, they're gonna do it to us. Like, and so it's like, here's a radical thing. I don't think that old women should be sleeping in cars.
No, and
I
and
don't care if they don't have family. It's like, that's a problem. Let's fix it.
right. And I mean, the thing is Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, all these billionaires, they know that money is not about the money itself and that they can never spend that money. It is about creating an issue of control and so that it is literally to keep people in trauma. That is the whole reason why we have all of that income equality to begin with, right? They know that if they can keep it's just so hard for me to really articulate this to people, but it's like the only reason why you would want that kind of wealth inequality is to create a stratified system and to keep people in trauma. And we have done it over and over and over again, recreating and claiming that we're not both gender and racial hierarchies through the stratification of wealth. And we're just seeing it metastasize here. But now everyone is getting hurt, you know? I mean, I in my neighborhood before I used to live in Northeastern Ohio, and I remember this was during Trump's first term and during COVID when a lot of people lost housing, and I had neighbors who were sleeping in the car with their families, and this was the case, I mean, like all across the United States, in Ohio, I'm seeing people sleeping in the car with their families, and then all they have is a Planet Fitness membership so that they can take showers. And this is a thing that is, I mean, across the United States. So I just, again, I return to these people want to kill you. It's not just about dream big. It's being like, we're going to make this happen. And we're not going to listen to these people who tell us that our options are white milk and chocolate milk, and the little, that these are your options at school lunch. Like, no, the fuck they're not.
Right. I remember before the pandemic when, you know, they were personal assistants, and that was the norm, where it was because rent was so high, they were sleeping in their cars, and they were using a Planet membership fitness to shower.
Mhm.
And, and like they're basically living like homeless people, except they have a vehicle, because they're like, well, I've got to pay a car payment and insurance. I can't also afford rent. And so they might get a hotel room once every couple weeks to have a bed to actually sleep in, and it was like, well, we're paying you plenty of money. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, you're paying, this amount, blah, blah, blah. But rent has gone up astronomically because, again, all these private equity kept buying up all these like and building all these apartments, and they kept jacking the rates up, you know.
Right.
Like there's a thing now with airline travel, right? And this is thanks to AI, is that if you go on any website and you search, like this literally just happened to me, but it also happened in a different way, is if you search a destination more than once, like a lot of us who will travel, they'll go, man, what's it like? Okay, I want to go to Portland at the end of the month. Okay, what are those tickets? Like, okay, yeah, all right, let me come back. Let me figure this out. And then you go back, price changes. Mine was even more dastardly. I said, okay, let me go in. I'm going to book my flight for these days. And as I'm picking my seats and I get to where your flight went up by $10 as you were booking it. Really? I didn't even leave and it went up $10.
They're doing that in grocery stores now too,
Yeah.
algorithmically, raising food based on who's buying it. I mean, like, this is the it's part of the reason one of the reasons why those convenience apps, the DoorDash, they're the ones that are kind of using it, that those algorithms are, like, they're using the algorithms now to sort of charge you more based on it. So, I mean, like, I guess my point is just that, like, I feel like we need to stop wanting what billionaires want, because you know who wanted this war? Billionaires, right?
Billionaires,
These
yeah.
All of this
Yeah.
has to do with real estate deals and war profiteering, right? Every bit of what everything that we suffer through is because greedy ass men want to loot.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I mean, I know that I've got to wrap this up because I feel like my dog he's about to come in here and I just know it.
He's so mad.
He is
So
5 minutes away from humping his dog bed. I'm just putting it out there. He is an exhibitionist. And I don't know if I can land that. I don't know if I can land that plane while we're on a Substack Live. Like, I don't know what do I do? Like, how do I keep that normal? Like, how do you ever have a conversation with me again? Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, probably. I mean, I worked in aviation. I was a former Marine, so yeah. I mean, it's not gonna be. I'm like, cool.
yeah, well, I appreciate you. But
I mean,
yeah, no,
I'd look at that dog and I'd be like, I understand.
yeah, no,
I
he
understand.
he's an exhibitionist. When he gets very happy, like, if he's gotten a long walk, he'll be like, "Look what I'm gonna do." Or if we have visitors, oh my god. And, he's a Mastiff mix, so he's huge. So when he's humping a bed, it's a whole production, right? It's like a cabaret production with my dog and his dog bed. It's a whole thing. So I just wanna make sure that doesn't happen.
I I've got a little gray cat, like a gray Russian named cat
Oh,
Momos, right?
not a blue
And
Russian?
yeah, like he is like he actually fetch, like, I have these little toy mice that I bought him, and I'll be sitting on the couch and I'll feel this little thing drop on my shoulder, and that's his signal that he wants me to grab it and toss it, and he'll
Oh,
grab it and then he'll run back and then he'll drop it down, and like, yeah. And he also apparently I've discovered he likes to be his belly to be scratched with the wooden back scratcher.
aw.
Yeah, he's like, I'm like, dude, can you be any cuter? Like, what is going
Oh,
on
yeah.
here? Like,
Banjo likes a back scratcher too. It's so funny. They're like, "What is this?" It's just
this
like
is
a
awesome.
universal.
I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, I know it's great, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. That's
I'm telling
fantastic.
you, man. Like, But yeah, no, like if there's anything to take away from this conversation, folks, just one, don't let this lie. This is not, don't let this get normalized. This is not normal behavior. This is not, you know, like, like what we should accept at all. And two, think about the world you want to live in. Don't think about, don't let these like Beltway insiders and all these supposedly smart people tell you, well, that's just not possible. And you need to do this. And we need to think about that. And what do you expect Democrats to do? Oh, I don't know. And that's the one thing that always makes me mad is like, well, what can they do? Chain themselves to the door. How about that? Right? You want people that look, that were my age at 20 or at 20 years old, that served to go over and die overseas, and you're not willing to have a long day. You're not willing to stamp your feet. You're not willing to make a spectacle of yourself and yell to the rooftops, this is wrong, and we're shutting down all business. Okay. Right. But that's what they do is, it's this, what do you want me to do? Something, anything. That's why you're there.
Right. And then also, like, what can we do? So, like, I just really understand that, like, even if, regardless of anything, even if this dusty motherfucker tries to steal the elections, we still have options. We still have
100%.
options. And they're and it's not like we have to do spooky shit, right? Like,
No.
we have intelligent people, we have solutions, but we cannot participate in this shit. So you, at some point, I think that we have to really start to understand that. But I am saying, please get apoplectic. And this is the moment to continue pounding on the proverbial doors. Show up in person at your offices if you can. But I am talking relentless, because this motherfucker just threatened 91 million people
Not even me,
with
people.
annihilation.
100%.
And he will do that again. He will do that to our neighbors. He'll be like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll nuke you. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to give you a date. We're going to have a countdown clock, and then maybe 2 weeks. We'll see how much you grab." We cannot get to the level of chicken where everyone wakes up and thinks, "Is this the day that starts where we die in a nuclear holocaust?" We are not
Right.
going to go down that fucking road. So don't let someone tell you, "Oh, where there's only this 25th Amendment solution, or there's only this impeachment process, and that's all we can do." No, the fuck it's not. If they are moving outside the law, then we need to also think about creative solutions for fucked up shit that we didn't think that we were going to have to be in. I'm sorry, but the constitutional framers didn't think that a madman pedophile would have a nuclear bomb and doing crazy shit. Like, that was not in
Target
the Constitution either.
Target is desperate to try to get people back because they got rid of DEI policies to, appease Trump, and people stopped shopping there, and now they're desperate to try to do anything to get people back. Like the FCC threatened Jimmy Kimmel, and I think like a couple million people said, "Oh, okay, well, I'll just cancel my Disney subscription." Jimmy's still on the air.
Right. And so that's the thing. Like, you cannot let these people play chicken with you. You have to be like, "No, I'm sorry. You can tell me whatever the fuck you want, but I'm going to keep on saying what I want until I get it. You need to take a playbook from them." They just repeat a lie until you fucking collapse and accept it. I'm saying repeat the truth until these fucking people, like, back down, right? Like,
Right.
just be relentless. You have to want to live more than the people who want to kill your ass.
Right.
Like,
100%.
that's the ride we're on. So please do not please do not be lulled back into because there's a comfort in seeing familiar faces from MSM, mainstream media, that, like, come on to Substack, and you listen to them and you're like, "Oh, we're back to normal and we're talking about the midterms." No, the fuck we're not. We're talking about the fact that Gramps threatened 91 million people with annihilation because he started a war that he couldn't, an illegal war, right, to distract from all of the other shit and to make money doing it. So, like,
Right.
please do not forget this, and and
Nope.
and and get loud. The fact that he backed down shows you that they're on the back foot, and that there are people behind the scenes who were like, "No." So, like, please do not let this go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Zuppel's brought up a point, like, for Kimmel was an international effort, and, folks are saying, like, "Oh, well, we don't get a choice." No, you do. Pressure your government not to treat us friendly anymore.
Yes.
Do that. Just say, "No, we're not," like, "Our relationship with America needs to change."
Yes. Yes.
We're tired of being led around by a big bully at that, we're not having it. You can pressure your politicians to do that, you
Yeah.
know? Like, you can that will help us more than anything.
No kings and
Bec
no quislings.
Yeah. Like, you can do that. That will help us because, like, E Europe, Europe going their own way and France negotiating, with Iran without us, great, do it. Canada bypassing us and making international agreements with China and Mexico and the EU, do it, you know? And I'm you know, I'm I there's you can anybody could get, this is how you stand up to a dictator, you know? Like, this is how you stand up to him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for being here with us, and Fred, thank you for agreeing to hop on a call with
yeah,
me. I just messaged him and I was like, "Want to chat?" So because
let's do it.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
All
See
right,
you
I
at home.
appreciate you. Go take care of that dog.
I will. I will. Gives his regards to everyone on this chat. Thank you for being here for his Chewbacca, and I'm glad we didn't have the bed moment. So, all right.
I'm hoping for the bed moment
Oh
actually at some
Lord. Oh Lord. Don't wish for it. All right. I'll see ya. Bye.